I'm going to need your help tonight because I'm not very good at English. You guys ready? There's going to be a word here in just a few moments called Caesarea. Everybody got that? Everybody say Caesarea. Now, when I ask for your help, everybody say Caesarea. When I say I need your help, I need you to say that because I'm going to forget. I'm going to forget. Anyway, everybody say Caesarea. Everybody say Philippi. Those are fun. What if I just said that the whole time? So everybody say Caesarea. All right, I'm going to move on. We got time. Y'all got to get a small group. Hey, if you guys enjoyed over the past couple weeks, I know it's been different, but man, Pastor Brandon, you just got to give him a hand clap and a thank you. Man, he did fantastic last week. Happy birthday, by the way. We're officially 12. We're not a teenager yet, so you still have to bear with us, right? But I'm grateful for interruptions, okay? Because I love when we just submit, God, okay, we'll do what you have planned, right? I'm grateful for our response time last week. Y'all, we've had a couple people receive Christ and accepted him. Yeah. So, is Connor Davis here tonight? Connor Davis? My man got saved last week, right, bro? Is that last week? Come on, bro. I'm so proud of you, man, and welcome. Welcome. The journey's just started. So, I'm excited for you, bro. And then the week before that, man, I appreciate y'all's honesty and just like boldness to ask some uncomfortable questions. So, but I promise tonight we're going back to small groups. So, everybody say next week. There's no youth. Boo! Right, that's okay. Next week is spring break. You'll be out of school. You can celebrate that. No school. That's fine, right? So, this is what I need you guys to do. Because not next week, but the week after that is Youth Easter. And we are excited because we're going to be able to talk about the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. And that is why we celebrate Easter. Easter's not about the Easter bunny. It's not about none of that, right? It's about our risen Savior, and I cannot wait to talk. But you guys, I'm going to promise you, if you guys have people who don't know Jesus, if you have friends that need to be here, that is going to be the night, okay, that you're going to want to invite some people because we don't have youth next week. So the week after that, you guys spend Thursday, Friday, and then Monday, Tuesday, or the week after that, inviting your friends, okay, because it's going to be a powerful night. I know it. I know it, and I believe it. And I know you guys remember how we talked about a few weeks back. It was like, hey, there are people who at the end of the day, they might not say it, but they want what you have. They do. And so let's pull them in here. So if you haven't been with us over the last few weeks, we've been in this series called Counterformed, and we've been walking through the book of Mark, right? And the book of Mark is broken up in 3 different acts. And we have been over the last 8 weeks talking about the first act, which is who is this Jesus? Now, we've spent a lot of time on who Jesus is, okay? But tonight we're going to be getting into the middle part, the second act, which is what does it mean for Jesus to be the Messiah? And then later on we'll be discussing how Jesus becomes king, okay? So we've been talking a lot about the call of Jesus, the power of Jesus, the authority of Jesus, the presence of Jesus, and last week Pastor Brandon talked about Jesus the deliverer, right? So we know a lot about who this guy is, okay? If you've been around and you haven't picked up on that, and maybe go revisit some of those. But we spent a lot of time discussing who is Jesus, right? Some of us have maybe heard of him before. Some of us maybe a little bit. Some of us maybe grew up in church. But who is this guy, right? And tonight we're going to be beginning our conversation and discussion on what this means for Jesus to be who he says he is, right? And I'm excited about it. So I'm going to move. Tonight's going to be quick because you have not been in groups in over 2 weeks. I know you got a lot to talk about, and I want you guys to just give me the next few minutes, and we're going to move fast tonight, okay? So you're in Mark chapter 8. Let's go up to verse 27. Verse 27, it says this: Jesus and his disciples left Galilee and went up to the villages near, y'all help me out, Caesarea Philippi. As they were walking along, he asked them, who do people say I am? Anybody ever ask, hey, what do they say about me? Right? Who do they say I am? Right? This is kind of what Jesus was asking his disciples here. He was wondering. They go, well, they replied, some say you're John the Baptist. Some say Elijah. And others say you are one of the other prophets. Then he asked them, but who do you say I am? Peter replied, you are the Messiah. But Jesus warned them not to tell anyone about him. Now it's interesting because there are some times that Jesus is like, we've read where he goes and he does a miracle and he's like, go to the city, tell everybody, right? We've read some of those stories. But there's also times where Jesus says something like this and he's like, don't tell anybody about it. And I'm always like, why would you not want to tell anybody about it? But Jesus has a plan, and he knew when the right time it would be to go and tell people about these things. So I think it's really easy, if we're being honest, right, to proclaim who Jesus is in settings such as this, right? I think it's really easy to worship and claim, yeah, I believe in that. Jesus, he's great. Have an awesome, man, last Wednesday, man, I was all about it. Yeah, Jesus. Jesus, right? Maybe you come on Sundays. Jesus, I serve him, Jesus. But then Tuesday at 2 o'clock comes, right? And you're not so, Jesus. I don't know why I'm doing this, right? I think it's really easy, if we're being honest, it's easy to proclaim Jesus and worship him and be all about him when we're comfortable in a place such as this. But I think it's hard not to recognize him for who he truly is outside of these walls, myself included. It's hard. It's hard sometimes when somebody cuts you off and you want to tell them they're number one, right? No, I don't want to do that, right? Right, it's okay. We're all in this together. So the interesting thing, though, in these few verses is Jesus and his disciples were in a city, what was it called? Caesarea. Check this out, where people actually worshiped other things and other gods. This is not just, they just didn't just so happen to be here. All of this was on purpose, and Jesus knew, like, hey, we're about to talk about something, okay? So where they were in Caesarea, it was actually a pagan city and known for worshiping Greek gods. Anybody familiar with Greek gods, all those things, right? If you're unfamiliar, maybe you've heard these people. Zeus, maybe you've heard of Athena, Apollo. All right, we're starting to track now. Greek gods. And in this time and in this place, these people in this city worshiped those guys. They didn't worship our God. They worshiped many gods and were falling in love with things that they shouldn't have been. So what this is saying was so perfect and such in the right place for Jesus to ask the disciples what he asked because of the situation that he was in. So he wanted them to recognize him as the Son of God, right? Because they were in a city where there was a lot of gods being worshiped. But he's asking, who do you say I am? Right? So I want to ask you, who do you say Jesus is? Like, really? Is he your Wednesday guy? Your Sunday guy? Or is he your guy on Monday? Your guy on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday? Who do you say Jesus is? Is he just another guy to you? Is he just someone who you claim his goodness every now and then? Is he the guy that your friends say that he is? Now, that could be a good thing, but that could also be a very destructing thing. Is he just the guy who everybody else says is around you? Or is he truly the Son of God to you? Really? Is he truly your Lord, your Savior, and your Master? Really? Really? We're going to keep reading in verse 31. It says this, then Jesus began, I'm sorry, I missed the point. Write this down. This is kind of long. This is so good. It is not enough to know what others say about Jesus. You must know, understand, and accept for yourself that he is your Lord and Savior. You must move from curiosity to commitment. You must move from curiosity to commitment. I'm committed to this man. I'm not just wondering about, I've realized, remember 8 weeks? I've realized who he is. Now I'm want to commit my life to this man. He's not just someone that you can base what other people say. You yourself have to embrace it and embody who he is. And once you do that, then we can start discovering what it actually means for him to be the Messiah. I know a few of you are still writing that down. I want to give you some time. You must move from curiosity to commitment. In verse 31, and all your small group leaders have my notes. So if you need to ask them, they're on Slack. Verse 31 says this: Then Jesus began to tell them that the Son of Man must suffer many terrible things and be rejected by the elders. Has anybody ever felt rejected before? It's okay. Jesus saying, I must be rejected. I'm going to be rejected by the elders, the leading priests, and the teachers of the religious law. He would be killed, but 3 days later, he would rise from the dead. As he talked about this openly with his disciples, Peter took him aside and began to reprimand him for saying such things. Now, can we pause for a second? I don't necessarily personally like taking anybody aside and just laying into them. Can you imagine? Peter, this dude had the nerve to pull Jesus, hey, bro, and let him reprimanded Jesus. That's insane. That's crazy. The nerve, right? And you know what Jesus said? He goes, get away from me, Satan. Yikes. You are seeing things merely from a human point of view, not from God's. And now those are two different points of view. One is actually really dangerous, and the other one is really beautiful. Then he called crowds around. He was like, hey, Peter, watch this. Everybody come here. Called crowds around to join the disciples. He said, if any of you wants to be my follower, you must give up your own way, take up your cross, and follow me. If you try to hang on to your life, you will lose it. But if you give up your life for my sake and for the sake of this good news, you will save it. Everybody say, save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? I would think that we would all probably agree with no. Is anything worth more than your soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my message in these adulterous and sinful days, the Son of Man will be ashamed of that person when he returns in the glory of his Father with the holy angels. Now, there will come a day where Jesus will come back and gather his people. This is important. I need you to pay attention. It's important. He will come back one day and gather everybody. And those of us who have put our faith and trust in him, those of us who were not ashamed of him on this earth, man, he's on his way. He's calling for you right now. Man, look at God. If that ain't a sign, I don't know what is. Maybe you need to get saved. I'm just kidding, but seriously. Where was that? There will come a day, right? Jesus is going to come back. And for those of us who are not ashamed of him on this earth, and for those of us who have put our faith and our trust in Jesus, man, he will say, enter in, you good and faithful servant. He will. But for us who are ashamed of him, he will say, depart from me, for I never knew you. He will say that. So this is interesting because if we are honest, I think we can often be like Peter here. And what I'm trying to say is we think more about our purpose than God's. We care more about our pride, our reputation, our status, who we sit next to, our relationships, our ego. We care way more about that than we do God. And we don't have to look around very far, do we? Man, I was excited about this. Man. Thank you. Let's reread 35. If you try to hang on to your life, your ego, your status, your reputation, your pride, if you try to hang on to all of what you have planned, can I just remind somebody, the scriptures say you will lose it. You will lose it. Don't get mad at me. I didn't write the Bible. But if you give up your life for my sake, and for the sake of the good news, you will save it. And what do you benefit if you gain the whole world but lose your own soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my message in this adulterous, sinful days, Jesus is saying, he will say, depart from me. Because I know this, we must die to ourselves to live with Christ. To save yourself, you must first lose it. Now, I think this can get twisted because we live in a twisted world. What this is not saying that you have the right physically to end your life. I want to make that clear. That is not what the scriptures are saying. It's not saying, oh, it told me I need to die to myself. It's not saying, no, absolutely not. It's not saying, well, I need to take my life, right? It's saying taking your life in the regards of what you have planned for your life and submitting to what God has planned for your life. That's what he's saying. And I just feel it in the room. I just want to remind anybody who is dealing with self-harm, cutting, suicidal thoughts, every bit of that is from the pit of hell. Every bit of it. And so when Jesus says that you must die to yourself, it's saying your ways, the way that you want to live your life. Man, I love how the scriptures say, man, do everything for the Lord's sake. It's not even for me. Like, I'm not even doing this for me. Like, yeah, I did this to fuel me, right? But man, this message is not only for me, it's also for your sake, right? So I hope everything I do is for the Lord's sake. So Jesus, right, he's not saying that your life is useless. He is saying our life is worth dying for. And not only yours, but Jesus is saying his life was worth dying for. We'll talk about that later on. Your life and his life. I'm excited for Easter because we are really going to be able to talk about this. And it's been a while since we've been in small groups, so you should have plenty of time to talk. We have over 55 minutes. All of my talkers, please take that energy into your small group. Okay? This is so important. And I'm done for the night. I'm done talking. And I want really bad. Listen to me. We've talked a lot about who Jesus is. Now, what does it mean? What does it mean for him to be who he says he is? Okay? I love every single one of you. And I want every single one of you to know that I take this so seriously, to the fact that I will call you out if you're going to hinder people from receiving the gospel. I don't care. You don't do it at school, you get suspended. We're not going to do that here. Not going to do it. And that's fine. If you don't want to come back, I love you. Our doors are open. But we're not going to disrespect people in this time. We're not. Okay? Maybe getting all dad mode on y'all, and I hate that. I don't want to do that.